Tom Ray, a John Maxwell certified leadership coach. Welcome to Life, Love, and Leadership, where we discuss everything pertaining to life, love, and leadership. Let's get started. Welcome to Life, Love, and Leadership by the Real Leadership Company. I'm Tom Ray, and joining with me on the line is a very special guest, Gina Trimarco. Gina, can you say hi?
Hey, good job on my name, by the way.
Thank you. I worked very hard on that.
I know you did.
So we like to kick off every show with an attitude of gratitude. And today I'm thankful for my daughter Ashton. She brings joy to my life. And a little fun fact, I had the honor of delivering her when she came into the world. And it just blew my mind, the miracle that was taking place right before my eyes. And so I've got her she's got me wrapped right around her finger. And she's just a joy to my life. She's 22 years old now. And she has a business called Wonderland Parties, where she dresses up as a princess and goes and does all these parties for little girls and stuff, as Cinderella or something similar to that.
You get to be Cinderella and a princess every day. That's a brilliant job.
Yes. And right now she happens to be acting in a stage production, preparing for that, for Beauty and the Beast. And she's playing one of the silly girls in that. So she loves to act and make people smile with her talents and her gifts. So that's my attitude of gratitude. I'm thankful for my daughter, Ashton. And Gina, what are you thankful for today?
I love this question because I journal gratitudes every day, and I start my day that way with journaling 3 gratitudes. And the one that continues for like the last few days, I'm riding on a high. I am really thankful and grateful for my future husband, David.
All right.
We're not engaged yet, but yesterday we bought a house together. And then we went to the jewelry store and bought a ring. I don't have it yet because we're doing everything out of order, and something's got to be a surprise. So the proposal has to be a surprise at this point. But we don't want to move in together without being married. But I'm really super grateful for the man that he is and how he leads our relationship, and I will say our family, because I'm going to become a stepmom.
Awesome.
So, but again, I should have put the horse before the cart, but we kind of already have done that because we just put money down on a house. But I'm super grateful to have someone so incredible in my life, because it makes everything else I do so easy, and gives me a life of abundance because the kind of man he is.
That's wonderful. That's heartwarming, actually.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
To that. And I hope I get to hear about the engagement once that takes place.
Yeah, so. When it happens, I will be broadcasting it everywhere. So he has to have one thing he can surprise me with, and that's going to be it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, do you feel that he can get something over on you? Do you think he can keep something a secret?
That's a funny question because he pretends that he can't do it. Pretends sometimes to be more gullible than he actually is. But I'm pretty excited to see what he comes up with.
Well, it's so good to have you on the podcast today, Gina Trimarco, sales trainer, coach, keynote speaker, podcast host, and powerful woman, right? Yeah. So good to have you on the show. And can you tell everybody, besides what I just did, a little snapshot of who you are?
My gosh, how long do we have? Do we have hours? No, it was snapshot. I mean, I think you just gave all the descriptors of the things I do, right? Which is interesting because especially in America, we kind of class ourselves that way about the things that we do. But if I were to describe me, I would say I'm a girl who grew up in Chicago with with a immigrant mother from Germany and an Italian American father who grew up in Chicago in the mob years of prohibition and things like that, because he's much older than my mother. And just like I often refer to myself as Gina from the block. I'm a city girl who was raised to be gritty and kind of a scrapper and an entrepreneur. And I live my life. I've always lived my life that way, in that style. But as far as like who I am, I'm a salesperson and a sales trainer that if you would have told me that 20 years ago, I would say there's no way I would ever be doing that. But then I finally just accepted the fact that it comes easy and naturally to me. And so I love being able to help other people get comfortable with asking for what they want.
That's good. That's good. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to bring the tie together with Gina and I is I've been reading a book by Jeb Blount called Fanatical Prospecting, and it led me to Jeb Blount's website, Sales Gravy, and I was able to find out that there was a boot camp on fanatical prospecting, and Gina was the host to that, and she did a terrific job at leading us through that. And so, if you're interested in sales, she's definitely the one to tap into, to listen to, and be taught by Gina, and to share with you the fanatical prospecting boot camp. Through salesgravy.com, right?
Yeah, and or salesgravy.university. And we do offer a variety of courses. So I teach that course, Fanatical Prospecting, based on Jeb's book. I also teach a variety of other courses based on his book. And also I've designed and developed courses that are based on improv and how to be more agile as a salesperson. So I've got a bunch of courses that I teach.
Wonderful. Good stuff. And you've got your hands on a lot of pots though, too, right? A lot of things you have going on, and you have a podcast of your own, I'm understanding, right?
Yeah, I actually have two podcasts of my own. One, which is trying to get it relaunched, because it's a podcast Jeb wanted me to relaunch. The podcast I started in 2016 called The Pivotal Leader. So that's coming back under the Sales Gravy umbrella. I parked that one temporarily when I was launching the Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast. So that one is pretty active. We have episodes that come out every week. So we are in our third season with that show.
Wonderful. What can people expect to find on that particular podcast?
Well, it's a podcast that is about sales and business. Myself and my original co-host, we started the show on the premise of we are women who do things the way we want to do them, which is sometimes looked down upon. And I spent enough time in my career, giving into what everybody wanted me to be or think I should be, or I thought I should be. And really, one day when we came up with the title, it's like, yeah, we're those women that everybody talks about. Yeah, we're those women who shake things up in the office. We're those women your mother warned you about. And so we are women trying to balance life and work and do all the things. My original co-host has since gone, and I have a new woman your mother warned you about as a co-host, Susanna Gray Jones, and she's based in the UK. So it's a little bit different, but it's still funny and real and raw and relevant, with really good content and great guests. And we get a little wacky. Half the time I don't understand what she's talking about with English. We both speak English, but her English is different, and I have to constantly ask her, I'm like, what's the word of the week? And so she teaches me a new English word. But a lot of great sales and business tips.
Oh, great. Good to know. So who was Gina BSG before Sales Gravy?
Gina BSG. Oh my goodness. Gina BSG was very much the same Gina AG. Gina AG. Gag? Okay, right? Yeah. I owned a sales training company prior to joining Sales Gravy and an improv comedy theater. So
Wow.
I was doing a lot of what I do now, just in a different way as the business owner of it. And I had originally started that company as a leadership training company, and then it evolved into sales training. And we always use improv as a foundation and a training tool in leadership and improv. So that was Gina prior to Sales Gravy. So that's where, I became a trainer and a speaker. That's where my first podcast got launched. And then prior to that, my career path started out in Chicago in television production. A lot of producing. I owned a production company for several years in my early 20s, believe it or not. And then I went through my career path, went through as an entertainment marketing director for live shows in the Chicago area. And then I ended up in the IMAX world and got into operations. And that led me to South Carolina, where I took over in IMAX, and then ended up starting my own business. So that's kind of my path. Studied at Second City while I was in college. So that's where I got my improv background. And prior to that, my dad had me hustling in flea markets on the weekends as a kid. That's where I really learned sales.
Yeah. The school of hard knocks, they call it,
Yep,
right?
very much, very much.
School in the streets. So do you love doing what you currently do?
Oh my gosh. I have like the best job in the world. Like, people who talk about like, they wake up and they dread going to work. I can't wait to go to work. I love what I do. It's always different. It's never the same. I'm always learning, which I think is really important. While I'm teaching others, they're teaching me. And that is also a mindset. But I love the transformation. I love helping people move forward and have a better life. Right before we started recording, I get a little ADD, but one of my coaching clients just messaged me, and I only had read half of it. But he just telling me how he just landed an appointment based on things I've taught him. And, that's what, we want to do, is like, we want to provide value as human beings to others.
That's good.
Yeah. But I have the coolest job. I work from home. I don't have to commute too much unless I'm on the road for a client. I make really good money. And I change people. So what else could you ask for?
That's wonderful. And again, this is your studio at home right now that we see. Yeah. That's beautiful, beautiful place. And it's wonderful to be able to work from home. If you like that sort of thing, obviously, but the convenience of that, and then to have all the technology to do so.
I mean, it's like being in a little TV studio here.
So do you do your podcast from this location as well?
I do. Yeah. So you see, I'm on my podcast microphone. When I'm training, I switch out my audio, but this is where I do everything. I have an office too, where I do my work or a lot of my sales calls. I do my sales presentations from here. And then in the new house, my studio and office are combined. It's a really huge room. So I'm super excited about that.
Great. Maybe you'll send us some pictures.
I will. I'm so psyched about it.
That's wonderful. So I got a couple of questions for you. One is, do you have a leadership tip, or perhaps a coaching tip for the masses to hear from you right now?
I would say that my best leadership tip is, it's cliche, but it's lead by example, and bring people into the fold. I was just having this conversation with someone earlier today. When employees don't understand the inner workings of a business, or they make assumptions about a business, especially the financials around a business, they don't understand it. And so they make up their own stories in their heads. And I learned this early on as a leader. The best way for me to get buy-in from my people was to bring them in. Right. So they're not going to buy in if you don't bring them in. And what I would often do is, for our monthly P&L calls, I worked for a publicly traded company for a while, and this is where I learned it. I would bring in my next line of managers and supervisors below me that really ran the business. And I would bring them into the P&L calls because I wanted them to understand the financials behind what we were doing, so that when I made decisions that didn't make sense to them, there would be some context to it. So we have to be constantly in the mindset of, did we give them the tools that they need to do their job and to understand the purpose? And if you have someone that does something that you're unhappy about, you don't like, and you're like, I can't believe that person did that, ask yourself if it's your fault. Right. And I will say 8 out of 10 times it was my fault. Even though I knew what to do, I would forget to do it. I would be too rushed to do it. So just make the assumption that they don't have enough information, or that they're ignorant about it. And they have, someone needs to educate them. That's on you as a leader.
That's good. That's good. I was just sharing with a friend of mine. There's a story of this little boy named Johnny, and he's playing out in the street, and mom says, Johnny, get out of the street. So Johnny runs into the house, and the next day Johnny's playing in the street again. Mom says, Johnny, get out of the street. And Johnny runs back into the house. The next day Johnny's playing in the street, and mommy says, Johnny, get out of the street. And Johnny says to mommy, Mommy, what's the street?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's along your point there.
That's it. That's it. And when I see leaders get worked up about something someone did, oh, this is a good one. This just triggered me. I am an official, like, a speaker for Vistage Worldwide, although I just have not had time to be a speaker for them, especially like with COVID, all the speaking stopped. But prior to COVID, one talk that I would give a lot to CEOs was based on emotional intelligence. I called it managing the F word, feelings. Right.
Nice.
And I got booked to do that a lot. So I would talk about the importance of emotional intelligence, being aware of your own triggers, your own emotions, because you cannot possibly manage. First, you got to understand yours to manage yours. Then when you can have self-empathy, then you can have empathy for others so that you can help, because I don't believe you can manage anybody's emotions, but you can help lead them. And I had a CEO say to me, I just can't have empathy for them. And I was like, I had to bite my tongue. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. Well, why? Well, why do you struggle with that? Well, if I have to keep, I tell them something like, they keep doing it wrong, or when they keep doing it wrong, I'm over it. I'm like, but that's on you. That's on you. So either you haven't educated them or equipped them, or you hired wrong. It's one of the two. At the end of the day, it's still on you, which reminds me of Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, because he talks about that of, if you were to adopt a child, because you and your spouse decided you wanted to adopt this child, and then you bring that child into your home with your other children, and then that child's not working out. What do? You're going to kick them out and put them on the curb? It's now your responsibility because you brought that child in. And it's the same thing when you bring people into your organization.
That's good stuff. So on the sales tip, since you're here and that's what you do, can you give us a sales tip? On the sales tip. For those who are listening.
That's a big question. Do you have anything specific that you think your listeners would be really interested in?
Well, I think for someone who is, needs to step out of their comfort zone and make a sale. So that person, what would you say?
Um, well, first of all, if you're that uncomfortable with selling, you probably need another job. That would be tip number one, right? We're salespeople and we're paid to interrupt people. And we make our money by asking people to buy things. With all that being said, my philosophy on selling is I'm not a salesperson, I'm a problem solver. So again, it comes down to mindset. So if you switch your mindset to I'm here to solve a problem, I'm not here to sell to you, and you approach it that way, and you are persistent, right? You can't just be like, I'm here to solve a problem. Oh, you don't want me to fix it? Okay, bye. Right? You're going to get nowhere. So you have to be a persistent problem solver, and that turns into sales. So what's so wrong with being uncomfortable? I teach this. I've been teaching this for decades in improv. Um, you have to embrace the discomfort. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable because you learn from being uncomfortable. You learn from being imperfect. And here's the other thing: people don't like perfect people. So when you feel like people are looking at you and you're afraid to make a mistake and you're afraid to get in front of people and you're afraid to say the wrong thing, guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention because everybody's worried about themselves.
Come
Right.
on
So when
now.
you're like, how do I look? I don't know. I'm looking at myself right now. And so when
That's
you think
good.
about it like that, it kind of just takes it away. Like, I've been watching, I find different little things to binge on so that I can, have a moment to decompress from work. And I'm watching Being the Ricardos about Lucy and Desi right
Yeah.
now. And, you look at Lucille Ball, which sometimes I refer to myself as that, her character, at least, of, bumbling and goofy and making mistakes and misunderstanding. People kind of appreciate that, right? Like, why did they laugh at her so much? Why was her show so successful? Because when you make mistakes and you're imperfect and you're uncomfortable, your audience relates to you. And when your audience relates to you, your audience likes you. You don't have to work very hard. So that's a whole lot of rambling about what to do when you're getting out of this discomfort. I will say another sales tip, because I do so much coaching, something that comes up a lot, which seems pretty basic to me, but obviously it comes up a lot. I see salespeople struggle when I'm teaching them, like, let's say, telephone prospecting framework or an email prospecting framework. Here's where I see the struggle. They're having a struggle writing those frameworks so that they can get on the phone and say, hey, Tom, it's Gina from Sales Gravy. The reason why I'm calling today is to set up an appointment because you recently filled out a form about coaching and you want more information. I want to learn more about you. How's Friday at 2:00? Right. And people struggle with that kind of framework because, number one, they don't know who they're targeting. They actually don't have a list together to actually pick up the phone and call. Right. This is why cold calling is hard, because you're not prepared. So put the list together, know who you're targeting. Is that actually the right audience you should be targeting? Don't spray and pray. Don't have this gigantic list and think, well, maybe somebody will show up. Stop being that person on LinkedIn, by the way, who sends me all these messages about what I need to buy from you after I said yes to connecting with you, and then you vomit your services on me. Stop doing that. It's not effective. Period. End of story. Maybe it is. I ask a lot of them what their conversion rate is, and then they ignore me. So know who you're targeting, and then know what pains them. And I don't want to even use the word pain, but what's important to them. What do they need solved personally and professionally? Because people buy for their reasons. They buy based on emotions, and sometimes they buy for their own selfish reasons at work because they're trying to make their job better. They're trying to look better. They're trying to generate more revenue for the company so that they can get a promotion. So a lot of their reasons are their reasons, know what the
Yeah.
reasons are, and then you can connect the dots and figure out, okay, this is what's important to them. These are things that we offer that will help them get what they need and they want. You cannot message properly or prospect or target properly without knowing A, who's your most ideal customer, B,
Yeah.
what's their biggest problem, and C, how do you help them? And then even though you got all that, sometimes what you have does not directly connect with what they need. So be willing to think
Yeah.
outside of the box, right? And be able to color outside of the lines and say, okay, maybe if we twist our service like this or change the product mix like that, that is going to be what solves their problem. So
Hmm.
get off your script, basically.
Yeah.
How do you like that long-winded sales tip?
That was great. I think that will add a lot of value to those who are in the sales department. And, from what I've learned over the past couple of years, that I'm a marketer that coaches. I'm a marketer that does leadership development. I'm a marketer that teaches. I'm a marketer, right? Everything stems from that, and knowing how to market via cold calling or email or LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. Uh, it all stems from that perspective, and we don't like to be marketers per se. We don't like to toot our own horn. At least I don't think the majority of us won't like to toot our own horn, because we want others to do that for us, by the work that we've done, and then we get referrals. But it's
Isn't
when,
that isn't
yeah,
that interesting? And do you mind
yeah,
if I cut in on that?
cut in.
Because I have ADD and I'll forget it. Um, what's interesting about that, I've never thought about this until you brought it up. We're not comfortable marketing ourselves. Well, except for me, I'm always comfortable with that. But most people are not comfortable with marketing
Hmm.
themselves, right? I wonder why. Is it because they feel like marketing themselves makes them look like they're self-promoting, which makes people think they have too big of an ego? I'm just making a whole bunch of
Yeah,
assumptions here.
yeah.
So they're not going to market themselves. But you said something interesting. They're hoping others will market them.
Hmm.
Okay, which one of those is more egotistical?
That's a good point.
Think about that.
Hmm.
I'm hoping, Tom, you're going to market me because I'm amazing. And then it doesn't look like I'm telling everybody I'm amazing because Tom told them.
Mm.
Which one of those is more egotistical? That just came to me. I've never, ever had that thought until just now. I'm sorry.
Well, when you wrap it in that package with a tiny bow, that, that really drives home the point of that. And honestly, the people that are singing praises about you are singing it from their perspective. And and eh, here's the deal too. People can turn on you and be singing a different song
Yeah.
later on. There's a similar story in the Bible where Jesus rode into town on the donkey, Hosanna, Hosanna, and the next week they were saying, crucify him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Good point.
so maybe it's not a great idea for people to be your PR. For you to
I,
speak
I
for yourself.
I think you need a balance of both.
Yeah.
You need a balance of both because they actually go hand in hand. A lot of times when I'm coaching people, I have them do a very simple common exercise many coaches do. Go out and ask your friends, your family, your colleagues, right? 3 of each. Ask them to give you 3 words that come to mind when they think of you, right? And then gather all those words together and find the common denominator. And that gives you perspective of how you are perceived, right? And always
Mm.
what would come back for me is bold, confident, funny, right? Like words I expected. So I wasn't surprised by it, but some people get surprised by the words that they hear come back and they don't see themselves that way. I think we
Mhm.
have to be able to balance how we're perceived with how we perceive ourselves. If there's a disconnect, then we need to do something about it.
Mhm.
If you're being perceived, I know early in my career when I was new in operations and in entertainment, someone said to me, um, actually it's my ex-husband, so it doesn't really count because he perceived me differently. But he would say, "Yeah, you're not smiling. You're front." Like he visited me at work once, and I'm like, I got a lot on my mind, and I'm watching my staff, and I'm trying to learn this industry. And the point is, he perceived me as someone who was unapproachable, which is the furthest from the truth.
Mm.
But it gave me a moment to check in with myself and say, well, do others see me that way?
Mhm.
Because I'm not unapproachable. So I probably need to work on smiling more and doing things right. So I think you need a combination of the two, right?
Mhm.
Know how people see you. If you don't like how they see you and that's not how you are, then you can tweak it, right? Don't be oblivious to what your reality is. So blend the two.
That's good. And it also helps, John Maxwell talks about blind spots, right?
Mhm.
And they're called blind spots because they're blind spots.
Right.
Um, that's pretty
Yes.
deep, right?
Yep.
And so having this feedback from people who we are giving the permission to reflect what we're doing, and it helps reveal those blind spots in our
Yeah.
lives so that we can perhaps tweak it and become better at what we do. Because after all, at the end of the day, what we do is for other people anyway. It's not supposed
Right.
to be for us.
Right. Right. And if you start getting a lot of common feedback from a lot of people, you have an opportunity to change it. So you have to be willing, again, that's getting uncomfortable. That's asking people to give you feedback, which is ironic because of what we talked about earlier. We want people to give feedback and promote us through their feedback, but we don't want to promote ourselves. So watch what you wish for,
That's
because
good.
you're right. Like the story in the Bible, they might come, they said they might come running out saying, kill her.
Not good.
Not good.
So, uh, while we were talking off camera, you shared a story that resonates with this one right now, in that you got a comment from someone who said they wanted to be like you. And so,
Mhm.
can you elaborate on that for a second for our listeners?
Sure. Because I'm a sales coach, and I'm the director of coaching for Sales Gravy coaching programs. When I am for lack of interviewing, or when I'm on a discovery call with a potential coaching client who has reached out to us. They might come through our website. Uh, they might message Jeb and say, I'm interested in your coaching program. And a lot of times people come directly to me because maybe they've heard my podcast, or they've seen me in social media, and they've said, hey, I want to coach with you. And I ask the question, okay, well, tell me more about why do you want to coach with me? Why Gina? And often I have heard, because I want to be more like you. And this is, that's great. That's a great compliment. But I also like to have some humility, um, and say, no, you don't want to be like me, because who you
Mhm.
are is amazing.
Mhm.
So this is where people fall into imposter syndrome of comparing themselves to other people. You don't
Mhm.
want to be like me. You want some characteristics that I have. What are they? Let's talk about that. Let's hone in on that. What is it
Yeah.
about me that is attractive to you? Actually, my boyfriend the other day said, because I'd like to get involved in the community and in my community and do things, and taking on another project. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, you just couldn't wait to get back into that. And I said, It's theater related." And I said, well, I really want to get into it because someone in the community needs to make some things happen. And I feel like the community is asking me to do it, which they are. And he said, and that's what attracts me to you.
Mhm.
And I was like, what? He's like, the fact that you want to be involved in the community and help people attracts me to you. Right. So what are
It's
those
awesome.
things? So for this woman, she's like, I wish I could be confident like you. And I wish I could be fearless like you. That's what I want. Right. So then we were able to hone in on, okay, how do we get, okay, why aren't you confident? And what are you scared of? And let's look at that. Let's attack that situation to get you to that. But we want you to be the best you that you are.
Hmm, that's good. And so on that note, I had to wait till now to find out, but are you ever afraid when you're doing what you're doing?
Of course. Of course. I get, you had already alluded to this question and I didn't really have time to think about it. So the answer actually just came to me. I do, because usually I don't. I'm not afraid because I think, when we look at fear and where fear comes from, because we're wired for it, you know, um, through our amygdala and the emotional part of our brain, we're wired for fear. It's how we
Mhm.
survive. I think because I practice doing things that scare me, doing things that are uncomfortable, that I probably am more fearless than the average person because
Hmm.
I'm not risk adverse. I believe in trying things and making mistakes because what's the worst thing that can happen? Right. So it's again a mindset thing. I do get fearful. Like I have moments of fear like anybody else. The things that trigger my fear points are you see behind me there's a on the screen. We just launched a new course called Selling the Price Increase, and
Hmm.
based on Jeb's newest book that he's almost done writing. And it's all new material for me to learn and teach, which I'm teaching. And whenever I'm doing something that's brand new, I have a little bit of fear.
Hmm.
I have a little bit of fear, and it's the normal fear anybody has. It's the fear of making a mistake. It's the fear of not delivering what's expected. It's the fear of my boss not being happy with me. Um, it's the fear of a customer complaining. It's the fear of losing my job. It's right. Like when you start to get to the core of it, right? You have to drill it down. This is what fear is about. Drill it down. What are you really afraid of? Right? Fear is about survival, in my opinion. You're afraid of dying, either literally or figuratively. So whenever I have to do something that's brand new out of my wheelhouse, I have fear. The
Hmm.
only way through the fear is to just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it and just do it. Right. And so this module of the course I'm teaching this week, I've done it 3 times now. So I'm like, easy peasy. Right.
Right
So
on.
the fear is gone. But going into the first one, I was like sweating. Right. So
Right. Right.
that's what scares me.
Yeah, for the past couple of years specifically, these two statements have been resonating in my heart, and that is one, do it afraid, and the other one is jump and build your wings on the way down.
I say it all the time.
Yeah,
I say it all the time that I'm building the plane as I fly it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that terrifies people. And speaking about the plane, and speaking about jumping, back in uh, was it 2020, I believe, I jumped out of an airplane.
I love
Uh,
it.
yeah, so I'm afraid of heights.
Mhm.
And, there was this whole method to each and every step leading to that final jump.
Yeah.
And it was the first making the decision. And this is where people need to really get close to the speaker and listen to what I'm saying right now is I made the decision that I was going to go.
Hmm.
Secondly, I went. Then I signed my life away, saying that I wouldn't sue them if I die. Uh, uh, the fourth thing is I began to prepare myself, put on the harnesses and things of that nature. And at that point, uh, the guy that was going to jump with me, he said, "Are you ready for this?" And I said, "Well, we'll see." Right? Again, every step of the way is just another step closer to where I wanted to head. And then I got on the plane. At any moment, I could have bailed out, so to speak,
Yeah.
and forfeited the jump. But it just came to that moment, and I leaped over the edge, and the rest is history. And thankfully, I survived.
I think you really, what you hit on a really important piece of this, and it's the decision, making the decision. I had a coach in the past who said, and it wasn't her quote, she got it from someone else. Indecision is a form of self-abuse.
Mm.
When we get stuck in not making a decision. And so you have to make a decision, and then you make the decision right. You live with the decision you made, and then you keep moving forward, because it starts with the decision. Once you make it, it's kind of hard to turn back. You're already on the plane. Where are you going? You're up there with the parachute pack on. You made the decision. You have to kind of carry through now, right? So I think that's a big piece of it. We see this a lot in sales when people are afraid to ask for the sale or ask for the money. I see this all the time as a seller when I'm selling coaching, because it's a very personal purchase. Most of our clients pay for it out of their pocket. And, I always hear well, I got to think about it. And I always say, what do you need to think about? Like, let's talk through your fear, because you're not able to think because your emotions are in the way. That's why you need to think about it. Okay. Well, if I spend that money, right, they're stuck in that fear. I'm like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to you? Are you going to end up on the street? Are you going to be homeless? I'm going to tell you what it was like the first time I paid a coach. And then I was like, oh my God, I just spent this money. And then it forced me to hustle to go make the money back. And what do you know? I did. I jumped out of the plane, right? So you have to just tackle that fear head on if you're trying to get to the next step. That's the better life.
That's good stuff. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of folks that are listening that need to get off the ledge, right? That needs to jump out of the airplane, or whatever metaphor you want to use. We've got to do it. Or at the other phrase, eat the frog, right? We've got to do what we got to do. And by the way, a sidebar real quick, all this stuff we're talking about, websites and such, we are going to put in the description of this podcast, and we'll have Gina even mention some of them as we wrap up in just a few minutes. But let's talk just a few more moments about Gina. When we were talking off camera, you kind of alluded to some things in your past that brought you to where you are today. And maybe you can share some of those things. Maybe we can touch on the heartstrings of folks right now and just talk about you a little bit.
Well, this came from, you had asked me before we started recording about what am I passionate about. And, it's interesting because I had a hesitation in it, because I'm like, I should just speak from my gut. I mean, I teach people this, and my gut was like, what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about family, and I'm passionate about living. And I actually felt myself self-judging myself in that moment of like, oh, I don't know if I should say that. Like, but that's what I'm passionate about. And I've always been passionate about that. Family has always been important to me. And my entire life, and I won't say how old I am, but I'm older than a millennial. I always, my passion and my desire was always to be a mom and a wife, was always my passion, to be part of a family. And it's funny because I had said to my dad when I was like 17, a senior in high school, I said, I wanted to go to college, and I was looking at colleges. My dad was very old fashioned, old school, and much older than my mother. And he said, why are you going to do that? You're just going to end up getting married and having kids, which is funny now that I hear myself tell the story. And I said, but what if I marry someone that turns out to be a loser and I got to take care of the kids? And I don't know where all that was coming from, but I kind of do. And I said, I just want to make sure that I'm able to provide for that situation. And he said, you have a point. Okay. You can go to college, but you're on your own. We can't pay for it. My dad was much older at that time, retired. When I was in high school, we were living on Social Security. Even though I worked in the flea markets when I was like from 10 to 13, I got my first job at 13 in a bakery. And because I knew that if I wanted things or needed things, I didn't want to ask my parents for it because I know that they were strapped for it. And then my mom was an alcoholic, and I didn't know it, but she was so rough on me, and verbally and emotionally abusive. And that really impacted me. And I think the fact that my dad was sick all through my high school years, I think that created the fear for me that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make sure that when I have a family, it's stable. And I mean, my parents, I was a daddy's girl, and my dad was amazing, and he was my best friend, and he died when I was 22, which I really still don't know if I recovered from. You're talking about your daughter being 22. Gosh, I'm going to get emotional about that because I lost him when I was 22 and he was my best friend, but it was just it was rough. And, I didn't walk into the life that I wanted to of getting married and having kids. And by the time I finally got married in my 40s, it was too late to have kids. And I waited so long to marry the right guy and ended up marrying the wrong guy. And I thought for sure I knew what but I guess I didn't. And then it was really painful going through a divorce. Like you never planned for that and you don't know how to do it. People treat you differently. That was horrible. But I think my faith in Christ and my walk with Christ has been very powerful to get me through bad things. So eventually I found, God led me to the most incredible person that I am now in my 50s, starting what I wanted to do in my 20s of having this family life that I can be passionate about. And that's that story, right? So I those were the things I wanted, that I aspired for, that I kept missing the path for some reason. But I think God had a different plan for me for the last several decades to be doing different things. So the reward is now.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that, being vulnerable with us today. So real quick, how did you and David meet?
Oh my God. I'm just going to say it. We met on Tinder.
Nice.
Well, it's usually you don't meet, we met on Don't Judge Me for Tinder. I was being lazy because it's a real easy app to use, but it's also a really great marketing story, because part of my process was I dated a lot because it was, to me, like sales. Right after my divorce, I'm like, I treated it like a sales project. You have to prospect and you have to figure out who your ideal audience is. And that's how I treated it, right? People are like, just wait, the right person will come. No, that's like saying, just wait for the customer to call you. So I needed to prospect, but I also had to be really clear with my message. So I finally attracted the right person when I changed my message. And my message was, have your what together. That's how it started. And be comfortable with who you are as a man, and confident with who you are, and happy with who you are, and be okay with a woman who is the same way. And he was the only one who responded to it.
Oh, wow.
So So that's how we met. We went on our first date, and he took me to dinner. He took me on a proper date, and he brought me homemade banana bread that he made because he wanted to show me that he could bake.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's special.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's very cool. I'm all about relationships as well,
Yep.
And been married over 30 years to my
Wow.
childhood sweetheart, and
Love it.
totally head over heels in love with her. And Gina is her name. I don't know if I said that, but Gina is her name,
Oh my
by
gosh,
the
you
way.
told me that before. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh my God, that's so crazy.
Yeah, spelled differently. Her name is Jeana,
Oh, okay.
and you're Gina, right?
Yeah, the right way. Yeah.
The right.
Don't tell her that.
I tell people it's Jean with an A.
Okay,
Gina.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. But this has been fantastic to be with you here on this podcast. And thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. So what roads lead to Gina? What websites and contact information?
The best way to get to Gina is ginatrimarco.com. That is my website that then leads you everywhere else. It leads you to the podcast. It leads you to Sales Gravy. It leads you to all my social media. ginatrimarco.com is the fastest way. You can Google me. I'm very Googleable. And you will easily find me if you just type in my name on any social media platform, my first and last name, you'll find me.
Well, again, thank you so much, Gina. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me and to be with the listeners. And I think that, some things that you shared will definitely resonate with some that have been listening. I think we might have touched a few different audiences today.
Good.
So it's good stuff. And I'm glad that Jeb connected us, right?
Yeah.
It's through the fanatical prospecting and People Buy You, his other book, and several others that were just powerful, and his passion to help people, kind of get off the couch and make an impact.
He's amazing. He's amazing. When we put money down on our house yesterday, and I'd also closed a really big deal yesterday in the middle of closing on a house. So that was pretty exciting. And I was just like, hey, thanks. Thank you for giving me the environment. So that would be another gratitude I have, giving us the environment to have a really good life. It's cool when you have that kind of work environment.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, yeah. And even thanks, Jeb, for availing us the opportunity to be with you as well.
Yeah.
And tell David to get off his seat and make this proposal, right?
Well, he did just buy the ring yesterday. So
yeah.
He pulled a lot of triggers yesterday. Triggers. So he is fast and furious. And we did set a wedding date. So we've done everything. Yeah, everything's a little backwards, but
cart before the horse, right?
We're both planners, and we're both really, really busy people. And that's what I love about him, is that he doesn't get annoyed by me wanting to have everything in order, and he's the same way. So everything's in place other than the ring on my finger.
And that's coming, right?
It's coming very soon.
Coming soon to a finger near you.
Yeah, we're getting married in late May.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't even know if I should let that out. Well, I don't know. Whoever's listening, don't let we haven't told anybody yet. So you heard it here.
Maybe that's the spin for the show, right?
Yeah.
Special announcements. Wow. Thank you so much, Gina. I've felt very comfortable speaking with you, and I'm sure that people listening would feel the same way, feel comfortable listening to you as well. And thank you so much for your time, as I said, and I look forward to hearing more about what's going on in your life and your marriage and your new studio that's being built and all those things.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this podcast. And if you have any questions for me, you can email me at tom@realleadershipcompany.com. Look forward to hearing from you about that. And also want to know what your attitude of gratitude is. So please share that with me, too. As Gina said, she writes down 3 things to be grateful for every day. I have an alert on my phone that alerts me to find 10 things to be grateful for every day. If we have an attitude of gratitude, the whole day looks a lot better.
Amen.
So, amen to that. So, thank you again, Gina, and thank you for watching and listening to Life, Love, and Leadership.